Hello and welcome to What's in the Box. My name is Sophie Clarke and I'm here at Wessex Archaeology's head office, where I will be speaking to our in-house experts about the objects they find most intriguing. Today I'm joined by Pottery Specialist Katie Marsden. Hello Katie.
Hi.
Hi, what have you brought today?
So I've brought one of my favourite artefacts, a copper alloy jetton.
A jetton?
A jetton. So the word comes from the French word jeton with one T, and then we call them jettons with two Ts. And they are used as a reckoning counter, doing sums and calculations before we had the Arabic numeral system.
Oh, right. Okay, so this isn't a coin.
It's not a coin. It looks like a coin. So if you have a look at that side there, it's got a king's bust on it.
Right.
And that's Edward II. And the die that's been used to make this jetton is an old coin die. So they look very similar to silver pennies that would have been in use in the medieval period.
Right, okay, so when you say it's a die, do you know much about the kind of process that would involve? I've never heard of it.
Yep, so you would have had two pieces with the design etched onto it in relief, and then you put a tiny disc of metal in between and you hammer them. And because the metal's so thin, it leaves the impression on both sides. So they've used, the die is the piece that gets hammered with the design on, and they've used that, rather than hitting a silver penny, they've used it to make a copper alloy imitation, which has a different purpose. Okay,
I see. So where did this come from?
So this came from a site in Somerset.
Okay.
It was found with quite a few other medieval and post-medieval pennies. They're quite common finds. They do turn up all over because every merchant, every businessman would have needed a way of calculating. The Arabic numeral systems, the divisions and multiplications are very easy to do. But with Roman numerals, it's just not, you're not able to make the calculations in quite the same way.
Right.
So this is a way of reckoning that doesn't involve the actual numbers, and it means that you only ever need to be able to count up to 5 if you're using this system.
Okay.
So it's a lot more accessible at a time when literacy and numeracy is not very common.
You said that it was Edward II on the coin.
Yeah.
Does that kind of pinpoint a time period this could have been made?
Potentially. So Edward II was on the throne from 1307 to 1327 AD. These would have hung around in circulation for quite a lot longer.
Okay.
But we don't know exactly how long. The process of jetton reckoning went out of fashion in the 17th century when we got the new Arabic numeral system in, and it became widespread. And jettons themselves hang around a little bit longer, another couple of hundred years, because they become gaming tokens. So people use them for betting.
I see. Okay. Oh, right. Okay. So it's kind of like a casino.
Yeah, like a chip that you would use.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. Okay. And what's on the reverse? Is there any pattern on the back?
Yep. So the reverse has a cross with some little pellet flowers in the sides. And on a coin, you would be able to cut the coin along those lines to make half pennies and farthings, which are quarter pennies.
Yes, I've seen them, the small kind of quarter piece of a coin. So is this kind of like a normal pattern that you'd get on the back of a jetton?
It is. You get some quite some variation with jettons. So you can have ships, or later on a very common pattern is a rose, an orb design on one side and roses on the other. These ones are less common in the record, but that's probably because they're earlier. And so there's less of them that have survived in the record.
I see. So is this one a particularly rare jetton, would you say, or is this kind of common?
It's, having seen many of these over the last 10 years of working in finds, I've seen less of these. So
Okay.
they do turn up, but they're not as common as the later rose orb types.
Okay. So what's the difference then between this and a coin exactly?
Okay, so a coin would have been
It
used...
looks very similar.
Yeah, so a coin would have been used to make purchases. This wouldn't have been accepted. So this is, it's not quite a forgery, but it's not legal tender.
Right.
So this is used in counting. So you would have had a checkerboard or a piece of fabric with a board design printed on, and these were placed on the sections and moved around to make your calculations.
So do you have any way of showing us how these could have been used?
Of course, yeah. So if we wanted to do the sum 302 plus 203, we would add those up a bit like this, and we would get 505.
Right.
So we can do that with our number system quite well.
Yeah.
But before we had these numbers, which are called Arabic numerals, we used Roman numerals. And Roman numerals are letters in place of a value. So we have 1 for 1, we have a V for 5, X is 10, L is 50, C is 100, D is 500, and M is 1,000. So jettons would have been placed on a board like this. So this is that same sum written out. We have 3 tokens representing 100, so 300, and we have 2 in the one line. So we have 302.
Okay.
And then we want to add 203.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, you only ever need to add up to 5. So we can go, we have 5 here.
Yeah.
So we take away 4 of those and we move a column up to 5. And then we do the same on the next line. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's 500. So we take away 4 of those, and our sum is then 505.
That's amazing. So that's like an abacus in some ways.
Yeah, but these are really portable. You can throw your jettons into a little bag, roll your board up, your we call this the checkerboard because it's a checker pattern.
Yeah.
And that's where we get the term the Chancellor of the Exchequer, so the person that runs the money for the country, which is Rishi Sunak currently. So he gets his title from this system, which dates back to the medieval period.
Okay, oh, that's lovely. I can see there's like a small stamped dot in the middle. What's that? Does that mean anything in particular?
Yep, so that's actually a hole that goes all the way through the jetton.
Okay.
And that's punched right in the centre. And that's so that people can't put a silver wash over the top and try and use it as a currency. So it's to make it very clear that this is not legal tender. You can't shortchange your shopkeeper by using a copper alloy coin instead of a silver coin.
So was that actually a thing where people would kind of try and dip jettons into silver to forge? So
counterfeiting
money
of coins has a really long tradition. So counterfeiting goes back almost as long as the history of coinage themselves. There is always somebody out there trying to make profit by doing something slightly illegally. So that's to make sure that that nobody would be able to profit from what is essentially a cheap item.
Katie, thank you so much for bringing this in.
You're
that was
very
absolutely
welcome.
fascinating. I loved it. Thank you.
Glad you liked it.
Thank you for watching. If you'd like to learn more about Katie's object, please follow the link in the description. You can also follow us on our other social media channels, and until next time, goodbye.